All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Shayna, and I am the Managing Director here at Host Agency Reviews. I am beyond excited to welcome our next webinar hosts from the incredible tour operator Explore Worldwide. So they're all going to introduce themselves in just a moment when I jump off and you no longer have to listen to me speak. Explore is going to focus on a topic that is incredibly near and dear to my heart, which is sustainable tourism. They're going to focus on why sustainable travel sells. So a fresh look at why eco-friendly adventures aren't just good for the planet, but are great for business. So today you're going to discover how small group travel delivers unforgettable experiences with passionate local guides while keeping the footprint light. Learn why sustainable isn't just a buzzword. I think that's what I'm looking forward to. And it's really a sales advantage for your clients are actually already looking for. So as a reminder, please feel free to post your questions in the comments. The wonderful Abby, you all know and love her, will be hanging out in there with you to make sure that we catch as many of your questions as we can. If there is time at the end, I will jump back on. If not, I will send your questions to the Explore team and they will answer them for you. So either way, we will get them answered. We do love comments as well. So if you just want to comment on something that you hear and something's exciting, please do let us know and really get involved in the chat and share your thoughts. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to the team. I'm going to jump off and enjoy the next 60 minutes. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Shayna. Hi, everyone. My name is Aaron Fitzpatrick. I'm the Business Development Manager with Explore in North America. I think maybe our team could go through one at a time and just introduce ourselves here at the top.
Yeah, sure. I'm Hannah. I'm the Sustainability Specialist at Explore.
I'm Caitlin. I am the Marketing Manager for North America here.
Hi there, I'm James. I'm also based in the UK and I'm one of the product team. I look after Asia and the Middle East.
Right on. Thanks, everybody. So I don't want to take up too much of your time here up front, but just to explain who we are, Explore is a small group adventure travel company that's based out of the UK. It's been around since 1981. We have hundreds of itineraries all around the world. If you go to our website, you'll see them categorized into different themes: classic discovery, walking, wildlife, cycling. There's also an expanded collection of upgraded tours, which we don't really consider to be luxury, but do focus on higher quality hotels and stays during our classical discovery itineraries. If we go to the next slide. Now, why choose Explore over our competitors? We've got a few key offerings that we feel quite proud of, that we like to hit about our unforgettable experiences, our incredible local expert guides. Everywhere you go, you'll always have a local guide, unless it's a more intense hiking or a cycling thing. You might have a specialist who's not a local, but otherwise you're getting local expert guides. Our small group trips, we really do mean it when we say small group. We have a maximum group size of 16, but our average group size is often 11, so you're not going to be cramming people into tour buses of 50 or 60 people and carting them around. It is a very intimate experience. And as our team will explain further throughout this presentation, we are a responsible, sustainable company at our very core. Sustainability runs through everything that Explore does in every way that it operates. And Hannah in particular is going to be well positioned to explain that to you better than I can. Now, when you're trying to situate customers with our company, who's a good fit for us, and what do people want out of our types of trips, we're looking for open-minded, curious, adventurous people. Some advisors I speak to this format of travel as soft adventure. We don't want to oversell this idea that it's all aggressive mountain climbing and cycling uphill through yada yada. It's really more about people who want to have genuine, authentic, grounded, local experiences. They care about the itineraries, they care about the details, and they want to have a real experience someplace new that's not heavily over-touristed. They care about the details of each day of the tour. They're concerned about price, but really want to make sure that they get a really high-value experience out of their trip. And we do have a lot of great loyalty rewards for people who stick with us long term, who are looking to build a relationship and have that small group intimate experience with others. Now, I think that covers just the basic overview of Explore. So I think I can pass it off to Hannah, who can walk you through the sustainability portion of our business.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, I'm really lucky to do my job. I'm the sustainability specialist at Explore. One of the things that I've been part of over the years is to drive our B Corp certification. So we certified a couple of years ago, and that is all about making sure we are continually improving what we do. So really lucky job. And I wanted to talk a bit about what it means to us at Explore today, but I'm probably going to be controversial to start with and say I don't like the word sustainability, despite it being in my job title. I think it's really woolly, it's quite vague. What does it mean? It's a word that's quite hard to connect to, I think, and often people hear it and they think it's about taking things away. It can sound like it's going to be hard work and involve lofty, impossible goals like saving the planet. That's not to say I don't believe in it. I just don't like the word. So if we could hop onto the next slide, this is how I'd sum up our approach. We strive to do the right thing for people and for the planet. I think it's a really good statement of helping us guide what we do, as it can be applied to everything, really. Doing the right thing isn't always easy, and we'll certainly get it wrong sometimes, but that's okay because it's sort of a continuous learning and improving. And travel really is, it's a two-way thing. It should be a positive experience for the traveler, but also for the host community and the destinations. So creating those sort of connections with nature and the environment is one way we focus on doing the right thing. So if we could move on to the next slide, this is our busy digital lives have really seen us spend less time outside. Right now, it can feel a little bit disconnected from nature, this world that we're in. But we are nature. It's us, the wildlife, the water, the air that we breathe. And spending time out in nature and really connecting has a positive impact on our well-being. So when we're putting trips together, we're constantly asking ourselves, what are the impacts of this trip? We do things like we measure the carbon emissions of a trip, but our product managers are also considering things like protecting wildlife and biodiversity. We know that wildlife experiences can be magical, and the best experiences are where the animals have space to behave naturally. So, by doing the right thing for wildlife, it also gives the customer the best possible experience too, which is what we want every single time we get them out on the road. It's also about community. So if we could hop onto the next slide, I am a people person. I want to get to know people all the way along when I'm traveling. And we work really hard to create those experiences that engage you with the community when you travel. And that's not always easy to do if you're an independent traveler. My favorite example of this is when I took my mum to India on her first Explore tour. We saw all of the highlights of the Golden Triangle. We saw Delhi, the incredible Taj Mahal, the Palace of the Winds in Jaipur. Yet the thing she talks about most is the day we had lunch with a family and a mother and daughter taught us to make chapatis. Now, spoiler alert, our chapatis were awful, but we had so much fun doing it. And every part of that trip, the whole week we were there was special, but it was that moment of connection that made the biggest impact on my mum and what she looks back on now, which I love. Now, I'm really lucky. One of the best parts of my job is the Explore Foundation. I get to run our not-for-profit arm of Explore. So if we could hop onto my last slide for now. This is, like I say, the not-for-profit side, a charity that supports the communities that our customers visit on tour. So just by going on holiday, which obviously is a lovely thing, they're having a positive impact because for everyone who travels with us, we're making a donation to the foundation on their behalf. It's been live for 2 years now, and we've supported educational initiatives in Laos. We've funded elephant conservation in Thailand, and we've actually installed some clean water systems in Nicaragua. But I wanted to just let you know, one of the most recent projects we have been supporting is in Tanzania, which is a country that's had issues with human-wildlife conflict. Because as populations are growing, people are moving and living on the outskirts of town, and they are in spaces that elephants use as corridors to get between their water sources. So this is causing a bit of an issue because people are growing crops on their land, and things like maize and yams are like sweeties for elephants. They just cannot help themselves, and they go in and they eat the lot. So there's a really wonderful natural solution to this. Elephants are actually scared of bees. Who knew? The biggest land animal is scared of one of the smallest. But their trunks are extremely sensitive and they're very useful to an elephant, so they take a lot of care not to be stung. So we've been funding 1 kilometre of beehive fencing, which is a really simple wire fence with beehives attached. So if an elephant brushes against the fence because it wants to eat some crops, the bees buzz and the elephant instinctively moves away. So the houses and the farms are protected, and the elephant can still reach all of the areas that it needs to get to. Everyone's happy. But there's also an extra benefit of this, which I love almost more than the whole concept of elephants being scared of bees, is those beehives create honey. And the honey is collected by a women's cooperative, and the jars are sold to tourist hotels. So it's helping those local families also become more financially secure. Honestly, it's win-win-win. And the reason I tell you this is the details of all these projects we support are on our websites, and these are the kind of stories that I think highlight those positive impacts of traveling. And they give something much more specific to talk to customers about rather than just using that vague sustainable travel or having something you just say, oh, it's good. You can be really specific and people can connect with them when they travel to those destinations. So I could chat all day about the things that we do to make our holidays create positive impact. But I'm going to pass you over to James, who's going to talk to you about some of our trips.
Thank you, Hannah. That's kind of you. Thanks everybody for joining us. Pleasure to talk to you about a couple of really cool places. The world is full of amazing places. We've just selected 2 of the many, many countries that we go to. And I'm going to start off with Japan. I echo what Hannah said, and I feel super lucky to be in the job I'm in because I absolutely love travel, always have all my life. And I get to put all that passion into my everyday, be it researching a trip, putting together a new trip, reading the all-important feedback from clients on tour. Just absolutely love my job. And I love Explore. I joined Explore. I didn't say at the top there, but I joined Explore ages ago in 1998 and spent around 10 years on the road as a leader. And then I've been in the office since then. So, and I think that's a good sign, isn't it? I think Explore, like Hannah said, we always try and do the right thing by the destination, by our clients, our customers, and by the planet as well. So I just think it's just a really cool concept, a great product. And let me talk about Japan. I'm whittering on. So I've traveled a fair bit. I would say Japan has to be probably personally the most uniquely fascinating place I've been on Earth. On the plane on the way back 2 years ago, after my first visit, I was already thinking, I want to go back immediately. I land in Heathrow, turn around. But obviously I've got a job and I couldn't do that, but I will go back. It's such a beautiful country. This map doesn't do it justice really because it's just showing you the rivers, but it's a hugely mountainous country covered in forests. In fact, only about 20% of it's arable and flat, so they actually struggle for farming land because it is so beautifully mountainous. And what this trip, we've got 9 different itineraries in Japan, but this is quite simply our absolute bestseller by a country mile. And it encapsulates all of the highlights of the main island, Honshu, in a 2-week trip, traveling sustainably on the superb local train network. And we get to see some of the really big hitting highlights of Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, and Hiroshima, as well as traveling through the Japanese Alps, up through Matsumoto, where we get to see a really cool Japanese castle, Nagano, which is in the mountains. There's a really cool Buddhist temple, and that was actually home to the 1998 Winter Olympics. It's that snowy and mountainous, and then we head to the Sea of Japan, and then we spend a night in a village in Takayama before kicking on and seeing Kyoto and Hiroshima. So you get to see on any Explore itinerary. Obviously, we want to showcase the very sort of predictable highlights, but quite often Hannah's example is a good one. you come back, and it's the memories of that contact with the local person. It's the unexpected highlights that really ring truest and sort of make the biggest, longest lasting impressions. So that is, you can find out more online about this trip in detail, but that is our absolute bestseller in Japan. So the land from the future and the past. We've got a lot of departures of that trip. It is super popular, and you can read online reviews, see what our customers say about it. But we therefore have a really strong and big team of tour leaders in Japan. It's one of those, going back to what Aaron said, it's actually quite often a lot of foreign people who are living in Japan for a number of years, have learnt the language, might have married locally, fell in love with Japan, which is easily done, and have decided to start living there. And they are our tour leaders. There's various reasons for that. There's a lack of suitable local actual Japanese tour leaders, and they're brilliant at their job. And of all destinations, it's so very foreign and different, which is one of the reasons what make it fascinating. Do you really need help unlocking aspects of the culture, because they're totally different way of going about life and thinking about things. So the leader is super important, not just to make sure that you're on time and everybody's where they need to be and the buses are all booked and the train tickets are all reconfirmed. There's beyond the logistics and keeping the tour together, it's also the local life, the history, culture, politics, the food, the drink. The food's incredible in Japan. Just sharing all of their experience of Japan and answering any question you have. And the idea over time then it empowers the traveller to feel really confident in the destination, not just learn bits. They might learn some language, which will empower people, and learn to maximise the free time and really get the most out of the holiday and the destination. So that is a photo of one of our best leaders, that's David Lamb. Bizarrely, I've chosen a photo of his back, but you can see the branding there. And I reckon that is on a side street in Hiroshima, and he's probably taking the group to an okonomiyaki restaurant. So the middle picture on the left is a multi-layered, delicious Japanese pancake, savory pancake. That is, you get different riffs on it across the country, but Hiroshima, everybody's going to say theirs are the best, but Hiroshima are a particularly good version of it. And there's a really cool hidden away on the 8th floor of a big building in Hiroshima that you would never find by yourself. That is very local. Locals go out, have a few beers, and then they have okonomiyaki. So it's filled with, so it's a number of little eateries with hot plates, dedicated chef, and very much locals sat around the bar and drinking and eating. So it's a kind of example of a local scene, which would be hard to replicate or even find by yourself. Moving on to the top left picture, there's, I talked about Honshu, which is the main island. There's another island called, there's lots of islands, but there's one called Kyushu, which is further south. And Kyushu is super volcanic. In fact, Beppu is the second most volcanic place on Earth, with literally vents coming out of the ground all over the place. So it's the locals make use of the power of the vents in a very Japanese way, which is related to food. And they the locals will steam it. They call it hell steaming. And basically you get your meal, you can see there, it's much like the Chinese steamers. And what we do there is not only employ the services and knowledge of the local tour leader, we also get a specialized local guide who will take everyone around the local market. There'll be fruits and vegetables that you've never seen before necessarily, talk a bit about the local cuisine, help choose the ingredients for a lunch that then you'll cook on the steamers and eat in situ alongside lots of Japanese people. Again, quite a hard thing to do yourself, what to buy, what are the names of the fruits, the different vegetables and proteins, etc. Anyway, really cool example. Last example, bottom left. It's a very Buddhist country. There's lots of Buddhist temples everywhere. There's a sect in Buddhism whereby they perform a fire ceremony. It's a fire ritual, and it's really moving. It's a really cool experience, and it's not your typical temple. We go to one in Tokyo, so it's not your top 3 temples to see in Tokyo, but it is, for me, it was the most memorable, because you you see all the build up to the ceremony, all the priests in their beautifully immaculate and detailed costume, not costume, but their local dress. And you get the taiko drums start pounding, and I can remember it reverberate through your chest. And then they create a fire on the stage in the temple, which has a symbolic meaning, and it's just really atmospheric and it's super cool. So that's an example of sort of unlocking, seeing more the kind of things that you'll do on any explore trip, and how the leader plays along with that and helps the experience. So moving on to the next slide. So bullet trains, so beautiful. Look at that picture top left. Japanese, 4 countries in the world have developed their own independent high-speed train networks. Japan was the first, 1964, and they have not stopped there. They've developed thousands of kilometers of independent, so different from the regional train network. It is a network that runs superbly and like clockwork. So why would we use tour buses when we can use the brilliant local transport? And the same in the cities, be it trams, be it tube buses. We make use of the excellent local transport, and that brings you a little bit closer. Not only is it carbon friendly, I get a gold star with Hannah, and you just get, you know you're doing the right thing. You also get to share space with local people as you're making these journeys, and lots of things about what you can do and you can't do in Japanese culture. One thing you shouldn't do is walk down, if you buy a coffee to go, like it's a big no-no to walk down the street drinking that coffee. You should do it stationary outside the cafe. And eating and drinking in general in public is very frowned upon. They won't say anything to you because they're incredibly welcoming, kind, polite people, but you'll be committing a bit of a faux pas. And you shouldn't eat in general in public places. The same thing, you buy a hot dog, you wouldn't be very uncouth to eat it walking down the street. The one place that's generally considered okay is on a train. So when you do these train journeys, the tour leader will explain to you the local specialties. There's loads of vendors freshly making eki-bens, which are like bento boxes for the train, and you get to buy a local showcase of local bit of the local cuisine and get to eat it while you're traveling on a train from the future. I better speed up a little bit. I can easily talk forever. So bottom left is back on that volcanic island of Kyushu. The middle of it is just bonkers. It's a national park, and it is just mountains, and it's the biggest volcanic crater in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's not really conducive to building the rail network. So what we do there is we have 2 days in a charter bus, and we cherry pick the highlights of this beautiful national park as we make our way across it. And it really varied. And this is one particular example of a temple that's got the most beautiful setting in the jungle, or in the forest rather. Bottom right is another really special local experience in the local town of Kamakura, which we include on our upgraded trip. Our upgraded trips are really cool. It's good for people who want a 4 or a 5-star hotel experience, but they still want to get under the skin of the country. And on that upgraded trip, we take people out for a day to this little town on the coast near Tokyo, and the morning is spent in it really non-touristy. It's privately arranged, and it's a temple where you get to meet the head monk, the Buddhist monks, learn about meditation, and get to try it out yourself as well, and then have a bento box lunch, which is what the monks eat at lunchtime as well. So that is a unique visit. And then top right, Japanese, they never stop trying to improve a process or a product. So once a process, try and do your very best to create a product, and then it doesn't just stop there. Every day, the Japanese mentality, one of the things ingrained throughout their culture is to always try and, how can I improve this? How can I make this better? As a result, and very much as well, and this is related, is there's a lot of craftsmen and craftswomen across the country that are really specialized and dedicate their life to doing one thing, be it making a samurai sword. You might not want to buy them, but you might want to buy a beautiful ceramic, handmade piece of ceramic to come home and drink your Japanese tea in. So we get on our cycle trip that goes really off the beaten track and goes around Sado Island in the north of Honshu. We get to meet a master craftsman, learn about what they do and learn about the process. Up there, there's for hundreds of years, there were gold and silver mines going way back. And as a result, I'm not a scientist, but as a result, the iron oxide has these elements in it, and it makes for particularly good quality mugs and cups and ceramicware. So we get to meet a master craftsman and we get to learn about his process. And I could talk for another hour about Japan. It is just a marvelous place, but we've all got lives to get on with. So Portugal, again, equally amazing. Before my life at Explore, I used to live in Spain, right next door to Portugal, and for about 8 years. And I used to regularly go across into Portugal. Absolutely love that country. Such cultured, welcoming, lovely people. The country is not only beautiful, it's got so much, it's got a wealth of history, and the food and the drink are good. And it's just a marvelous place. And English is actually really widely spoken and has been for many moons. And in fact, the UK and Portugal are the oldest allies. So there's been a long friendship there since about 1368, when some kings and queens got married. So that alliance has stood to this day. So throughout history, Portugal and the UK have always stood together as allies. So I think that's partly probably why they speak English so well as their excellent education system. So the mainland, you've got a bit more contour here. You can see the mountains as they rise up to the north, particularly above Porto in the north. Again, we've got too many itineraries to talk to in this short session, but you can find out more on our website. But just looking at some bestsellers, it lends itself to active tourism, really cool bike trips. We've got a couple of really cool bike trips. So the one on the left is a trip that goes from Porto to Lisbon. You're not going to cycle the whole thing because that wouldn't take 8 days. That'd be a bit more, and it's not all beautiful. So we cherry pick the absolute best bits to ride, and we get to see. People have heard of Porto, right, and Lisbon, but maybe not Peniche, Foz de Arelho, Nazaré, and Aveiro, and all those other places along the way. Central Portugal is really cool. It's so beautiful. Each region has its own vineyards, its own specialist red wine, white wine, its own food, its own culture and character. So by traveling by bike, not only do you get to see Porto and Lisbon, those major highlights, you also get to see the unexpected highlights along the way, which are cool. Portugal's really good destination to sell year round because of the islands, particularly. The south of the mainland, the Algarve, has a particularly mild winter, so you'll find some departures in November and maybe March, February, depending. But when you get to the islands, like Madeira, the top right picture there, it's actually quite far south. It's like on a line with Morocco, so it's got a different climate. So it's subtropical, actually, in parts, Madeira, which is reflected in its local crops. And then if you go up from Madeira, you reach the Azores. You go up and towards America, up and west, you'll go out a bit and you get to the Azores, another beautiful set. So these are volcanic islands. Their origin is volcanic, and as they get weathered, it just makes them super beautiful. Madeira, I've been to many times. It's perfect. It's just such a beautiful island. It's stunning. It's tiny, but it's amazing. At times you feel like you're on a much bigger island. Absolutely beautiful, and we've got their family adventures, walking and culture, and the Azores is just perfect for walking as well in that beautiful volcanic scenery. So moving on to there's a picture of Ramon. So he's one of our local leaders, experienced local leaders on the right hand side, holding a knife. That's just because he's just cut a edible local, so foraging. So local leader can even be your foraging guide. So I don't know if you've ever tried prickly pears, we call them in the UK. So they grow off of a cactus, and you can actually take the skin off and eat them. So he's just sharing the experience there with the group on a break, probably on a cycling tour. I think Ramon will be leading. Top left, custard tarts. So if you haven't been to Portugal, when you go, make sure you try the beautifully tasty local custard tarts. Everyone in Porto will say they're pastel de Belém, and they're from Porto, and they're best in Porto. And then the pastel de nata, the people in Lisbon will say, no, ours are the best, and we invented them, and they're much tastier. The leader will be able to give their view on that, and also direct you, most importantly, to the best places to buy the custard tarts. And of course, you're duty bound to try them in the north, in the centre, in the south, and everywhere as you make your way to get really, to build up your sample group. The middle left is a photo from one of our sales team that just got back from a couple of weeks ago from the cycle trip I was talking about from Porto to Lisbon. And he said one of the really cool things, the leader, and there's actually a driver, there's 2 crew on this, so you get your cycle leader and then you get the leader driver, and they're a team. And what they do at the beginning of the trip is they say, right, we're going to have picnic lunches. If you want, you can pay €5 per person, so it's optional, not for everybody. But if you want, chip €5 per day, so that's around about, I don't know, about $5, let's say US dollars. You will get a picnic every day, and we'll go and buy it, and we'll lay it out for you every day. And he said it was just such a pleasure. Not only are you feel everything's better, right? When you're doing exercise, I think food quite often tastes better. But so they would finish their morning cycling, and then the support vehicle would be set up in a way with a table and so many local ingredients. He said the picnic changed as he went through the holiday, as they picked different cheeses from different regions, different meats, and different specialties. So it's just another example of how the leaders go that way extra to buy local produce and to showcase the destination. And one of the, for me, the best aspects of travel is food and drink. So along with meeting the locals. The bottom left picture is just a picture of an example of that central region of Portugal. Just super pretty, little tourism, meeting locals and enjoying a sunny day on a bike. What's better than that? So moving on to what will be my last slide, only slightly over on time. A fun photo in the middle. So this is one of the levadas. So this was taken by Laurie, who's in our product team. She joined in the product team. We try to get out at least twice a week on work trips to join tours or inspect trips. So Laurie looks after a part of Europe, and she travelled out to Madeira and joined the group, which is really important to do, experience the product, meet our clients. And they're standing over one of the levadas. Portuguese, levar means to carry. So a levada is carrying, that's what the origin of the word comes from. And that island gets about 4 meters of rainfall on the north coast and about half a meter on the south coast. So they needed a way from 500 years ago when they started building terraces and putting sugar crops in. They needed to build a network of irrigation channels from the north to the south, which go through tunnels. And it's an incredible engineering job, largely built by slaves, unfortunately. And some of them are absolutely incredible back in the day, 500 years ago. But to this day, we've got a network of perfectly built walking trails in Portugal. So we make use of those in Madeira. And that's that photo. And just the Madeira, I led out there as well. And whenever I also try and make a beeline and speak to locals always. And whenever I spoke to a local Madeiran, they said, what are you doing here? And they asked about, they'd say, oh, you're visiting our home. Where are you going? Whenever I explained the itinerary, every single time the response was, oh my God, you're going to see more of Madeira in a week than I've seen in my life. And that's quite often the way, isn't it? You don't always go to what you've got on your doorstep. But it was a nice endorsement of the itinerary because it's so complete. Remember the map, you're just going around, you're seeing everything, including Porto Moniche, the bottom right corner, that photo of the natural rock pools. Porto Moniche for hundreds of years was only accessible by walking trails and boats. And it's only really in the modern era, in the last century, that roads have been built to it. And when you're there, you really got a feeling like you're on the edge of just Europe, and there's just the Atlantic out in front of you, and in the very far distance, North America. It just feels really wild, and it's a really cool place to get in the natural rock pools and swim at the end of the nice day of walking or sightseeing. The middle right picture is one of those places in central Portugal that I mentioned. It's called Nazaré. Surfers will have heard of it because it holds the world record for the highest surfed wave in the world of 32 meters, I think. In winter is when the waves get really big, but they're always big. It's because there's this great big geological trench just off the coast, a great big trench, really deep. And as a result of that, it ends up creating this gigantic wave, which is quite unique in the world in that you can see it from land. You don't have to fly out in a helicopter or a boat to reach it. So what we do on all of our trips that pass through there is you pick a spot on the cliff and you watch the locals, not international surfers, I should say, because there's a load of people from all over the world that come here. And I think we spent about an hour. It felt like 5 minutes, a bit like when you go on a safari and you're watching the lions stalking. And what seems like 5 minutes is just like an hour's gone by, because it's captivating. You're watching how they battle the wave and how they're towed out there on the little boats and everything. So, and then the top right is just an example. I mean, it could be anywhere, couldn't it? But take my word for it, that is a locally family-run cellar in northern Portugal, the upper reaches of the Douro, and they've been making, that family have been making wine for generations, and we get to try some really high quality, high valley wines from northern Portugal, and we try and do that everywhere we go. So hopefully that gives you a little snapshot of what we do to try and unlock the destination, get closer to the locals, and to do it in the right way, to do the right thing, and to do it in a responsible way. Thank you.
So back to me. Thank you, James and Hannah, for going over all those details. I hope you've got a better sense, everybody watching, of how this focus on sustainability isn't just a token that makes people feel good. By designing these trips in a sustainable way, by getting out of over-touristed areas, by using local transit, by dealing with local businesses and keeping money within these local communities, we cannot eradicate the footprint we create when we travel, but we can do a lot to help soften the hit of that. And it's kind of at the heart of how Explore plans its trips. I hope you have a clearer idea of how those things all interrelate. Just a few minor little things from me. Of course, anybody can reach out to me directly. Again, Aaron Fitzpatrick, Business Development Manager at Explore. You can find my email address. You can ask about some of these details that are on screen there now. We have a number of concessions and discounts and promos. We offer a starting 15% commission on nearly all of our itineraries. You can get discounts on tours. But I don't want to belabor that too much. You can reach out to me directly and we can communicate more of that. And we'll send out this concession flyer to everybody who attends today's session. I believe after this we had time for a Q&A, if I am correct. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. And we'd love to have James or Hannah answer any questions you might have about sustainability or any of our tours.
Can I come back on and ask a few questions?
Heck yeah.
All right, I'm going to remove the slide just so that everyone can see our faces much larger, because who doesn't want that? Thank you so much. I have to tell you that Abby, who's in the comments for us right now, literally commented to me saying this is one of my favorite webinars that we've ever hosted. Like, this topic is just so near and dear to her heart. So thank you. You're making our audience really happy, but you're also making our team internally really happy. Oh, there she goes with the E in the comments. I'm very excited about it. First thing I'd love for you to share, and maybe Hannah, you can give a little bit more on this, is to understand the B Corp certification a little bit more. There are a few tour operators that now have this. Explore, I think, being one of the larger ones that has obtained the B Corp certification, just to kind of educate our audience a little bit more about what that means for Explore and what that just means in general.
Yeah, I would love to. It's for me, B Corp is a really wonderful certification, and I'm sometimes a bit skeptical about them. I'll be honest, but what I like about the third party company looking at what you do is it's very easy for us to say we're brilliant, we do all of these things, aren't we wonderful? But actually, you need to be able to back that up. And B Corp is a really significant structure. It's a big framework where you fill in. They've just actually changed their system, but when we certified, you focus on 5 pillars, and you're focusing on your customers, the people you're traveling to, your workers, and how you treat them, and how you're governed. And one of the things that I think fits really well with how we like to operate is you actually have to put into your legal company documents that the people and planet are as important to you as profit is. And you have to put that into your legal documents to become a B Corp. So really you're putting that message out that this is as important as anything else in our business, which I love. The second thing I really like is the framework is available to everyone. So it's about continuous improvement. So we had 227 questions, which was wild. And they're anything from how do we support mothers coming back after childbirth, to do we work with how many locally owned suppliers do we work with, and how many women-led companies do we work with? And that could be companies that support our head office or the local partners we work with. So it's really broad. It's not just environmental questions, which obviously are important, but how are we looking after the people that we visit? What are we doing to make sure human rights are upheld in all the destinations? So it's a really broad framework, and they check every single answer that you put. You can't just say, oh, we do this. You then have to attach your policy, or how you do it, or how many companies you work with that are women-led, and you have to show that evidence. So for us, it was a really proud moment. And actually, we got very close to hoping we were going to be certified. And we actually got the message, I got the message, halfway through one of our Explore monthly update meetings. And I'd been refreshing my emails thousands of times that day. It was actually a bit embarrassing. But I refreshed it and I saw the notification. I thought, oh, I don't know how I'm going to handle this. Do I just jump up and announce it? But I didn't. I snuck round to the MD, and we had everyone in the UK together and the regional teams online, some of the Aussie guys catching up later. But it was just a perfect moment to hear that news, that we'd actually been recognised for putting people and planet as an important part of our business. And the next step is, this is why I like the B Corp movement. We are expected to improve. You go through that process every 3 years to certify, but within those 3 years, you're expected to make continual gradual improvements, and they really guide you on what to focus on. So it's a wonderful stamp that you can look for to see where a company's doing what they say they're doing and someone else has verified it. So yeah, look out for it. It's on everything. It actually started in North America. The UK are catching up on it, but you can find fantastic chocolate. You can find B Corp wine now, B Corp beers, and the travel industry is getting behind it, because we are complicated. We deal with a lot of people all around the world. Knowing that you are following guidance on how to do that well and how to look after those people is a really great structure to follow. I'm a big fan.
I completely agree. I've gone to some B Corp meetups here in Toronto. And then also I see the label all the time in coffee shops. I go to, breweries and everything. And for a company of Explore size, I just think it's such an incredible feat, not only to want to get the certification, but to actually get it. The amount of points that you need, that whole process is it's a major process. But yes, you're right. Also that you have to continuously improve every year, and you have to recertify every 3 years. And so for everyone listening in our audience, these are things that you want to look for when you're thinking about not only who you want to travel with as a travel advisor to learn, but who you want your clients to travel with. They may not know what a B Corp certification is, and that is part of what you can teach them about, right? Especially as you have clients coming up that are, millennial, Gen Zs. These are things that are incredibly important to a younger clientele as well, that are using travel advisors quite extensively, especially in this North American market. So thank you, Hannah. I love your love. You just you lit up as you were talking about it. And That just, it makes me so happy. I have a couple kind of destination and product questions. So whoever wants to jump in for these, but are there any destinations or styles of trips that you've actually stopped offering because they don't align with your responsible tourism and sustainability commitments as a company?
Ooh, I could jump in with some examples that perhaps aren't destination specific, but experiences that we have
Wonderful.
reviewed.
Yes.
Um, things, it can be very specific or it can be sort of much broader. But one specific one that jumps into mind is something that has been, it took a long time for us to really get the feedback and understand, but we were getting awful feedback from one specific place in Egypt where to get to one of the temples, you had to travel by a traditional caleche, which is a form of transport that's been around for many, many years, a horse-drawn carriage. But we were getting customers, we started to see these comments come back saying, this is a really upsetting experience. The horse, it's very hot in Egypt. We're going in the peak tourist season. The horses are waiting outside, and it's essentially about a kilometre of road that you have to travel to get through this temple. And people were really upset, and they actually didn't want to go to the temple because of the way they had to get to and from there. And it's an interesting situation. You can't walk along the road. This is a business for locals who are very poorly paid. So actually, it took a long time for us to say, well, can we do anything to lift the standard there? Can we put something in place to support these people who this is their form of income? We can't just go in with our Western view and rip that away from them. Can we help them and say, could we put in shelter? Is there a way where you can give your horses rest, water, look after them a bit better to make this experience work? And after a while, we just realized we couldn't. So we went out with a message and we said, we can't offer that temple anymore. You can make your own arrangements to go if you want to, but we can't on this basis because we're finding it upsetting. But we will always try, certainly with something like that's animal welfare related, to see whether we can improve the situation first, because it's very easy to look at it from our lens. But actually, if that's someone's livelihood and how they've worked for years, camels in Jordan and Morocco always get us, and how they're treated and how they are tethered. You're going in and saying to someone, do this a different way. And they're like, but my great grandfather taught me this. So you have to be sensitive. So we will always take something out if it doesn't sit right, but we will always be mindful of it, just so we don't make a rash decision, because you have to look at it from a couple of different angles before you can really see the full picture. And that, for me, is where having our tour leaders is wonderful, because you have this person on the ground who is there all of the time and can give you the local perspective. And you've got someone you can have a really honest and open conversation with and say, tell me how it works. Tell me what's realistic. Can we improve? What would we need? So we're very fortunate to have that wonderful resource, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that you first look at how you can support and give back to the communities, right? And I always talk about keeping everything as local as possible. It's not something we might be used to in the country that we're from, right? But something that happens in the destination that they're in. And so you look at that first before you say, okay, no, we're absolutely going to stop. And so to me, that is responsible. And I like the word responsible. That's one that I typically use instead of sustainable or in conjunction with. So I really love that, but that was a great example. And I think, again, for everyone listening to, this is what, especially tour operators that focus on sustainability and responsible tourism, but also those that are B Corp certified, these are things that they look at when you're looking at itineraries, and when you're building them. Like I actually started as a tour leader. So I used to lead the 2 and 3 week tours, mostly in Canada. And itineraries changed because of things like this, when it came to the wildlife, when it came to like everything and safety and all those things. So I love that that very specific example. It just shows how involved you are with the itineraries themselves, which I think is incredible. I do have a question for
chip in?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Just I mean, Hannah's passion. Hannah's a great support. So she's a resource. That sounds weird. She's a human being, but she's
Yes.
super knowledgeable and passionate, and she really cares. So whenever we've got any question about the ethical responsibility about anything on any itinerary, Hannah's always there to feedback. And if she doesn't know the answer, she'll go off and she'll research and find out and link us up with a professional who does know the answer. So, and going back to that moment, I remember that monthly update when they got the news about the B Corps, and literally both Hannah and the MD had a couple of tears in their eyes, and it just shows that they really, really care about what they're doing, which is only understandable when you see it's about making a positive difference. One, elephant riding is something that we've just removed across the world that was commonplace when I was a tour leader, but since then that's been looked at through a different lens, and quite rightly we do not support elephant riding anywhere. And the last thing I would say is that we also are aiming to reduce carbon. So we're looking at any new trip, if it's got a couple of flights in there, I'll have to sit down with Hannah and explain why we need to fly and why it might be more carbon efficient to fly in some cases than travel overland. But we need to argue the case for it. Obviously, we want, first and foremost, the most incredible customer experience, but not at any cost. So we also look at the carbon footprint. And we haven't we, Hannah, over the last couple of years, removed a number of internal flights. You still get a great tour, but maybe where there were 2 or 3 flights, there's now 1 or 2. So we've removed carbon.
Yeah, and the product team for this, it's actually, I feel like this was one of the very, very few positives to the downtime during COVID, because I sort of went to the team, right, guys, we don't have anything on the road, so shall we just measure the carbon footprint of everything that we do? And everyone sort of looked at me, and I thought, oh God, I don't know what they're thinking about this, but everyone got on board. And the process of that was, from the trip side, over 10,000 elements of trips were put into this enormous spreadsheet. But now people come to me, and I love it. I'm a carbon geek. But they'll come to me and say, actually, I'm looking at this flight, but I've put it into the tool. And actually, if I do this flight, it's this footprint. But to do the train and the other option, it's a really long train and I need accommodation either side. So actually, the footprint is pretty much the same, but the customer experience will be much more challenging on the train scenario. And we work together to sort of go, well, actually, you have to balance. We want customers to have this amazing experience. So we won't reduce the footprint at any, like James says, at any cost. And we just work together as a really good team doing that. And it's sort of this thing that I think for me, customers need to know that carbon and the emissions is our responsibility. It's not for them to worry about. We're there looking at the trips to make sure we do it in the most impactful way, positive impact on the ground, but reducing those negatives. And our job is to get them traveling the world and seeing these amazing places and communities and having a great time. And they leave all the sort of worrying about doing it responsibly to us, because that's what we love doing.
You know what? I love this. Is actually, funny enough, Abby on our team, who's in the comments, actually sent me a question that, like, from herself, that she wanted to understand more about the internal flights. Does anyone have? And I think you just answered it perfectly without me even having to ask. So
yeah, amazing.
You're welcome, Abby. It's like telepathy, like just all the way to the UK. But I think that that's a wonderful thing. And I think too, to think about the carbon footprint of flights, and then to understand that sometimes when, having a flight versus, 2 hotel nights plus a train, that might be the same, like the flight might actually be less carbon. So I think that's interesting. Is there somewhere within the trip notes itself where you kind of outline any of that, where an internal flight is still used, or somewhere on the website where our advisors can take a look at that? So like, things that they can share with their clients. Is there somewhere?
Yeah, well, we have the footprints on every trip. on the front of the tour page is the footprint for the whole trip, the on the ground portion, because obviously customers are coming from all around the world, so we don't include the flights so it doesn't sort of confuse out. At the moment, we don't break it down into all the elements of that trip, because we find at this point there isn't so much customer demand for it. But we have that data. We have lines of it, which I've been in there today, carbon footprinting a few polar trips.
You're so excited. So fantastic.
I love that spreadsheet. Not many people do.
Oh, I love a spreadsheet.
But we have that there. So it's the kind of thing in future we might be able to break it down and show the sort of, this is the transport, this is the accommodation, this is the meals on your trip, and all of that sort of feeds into how we can tweak things. And if I've got time for one cheeky example, actually, it came out at the start, and it's Japan, which I now want to go back to after listening to James. When we first started doing this, we were also reviewing the trips in Japan. And the agent said to us, oh, we've actually got a new metro station which we can use for this journey on one of the trips. And we'd been using taxis at the time. So a simple change, as James said earlier, like the transport system there is phenomenal. So now customers using the metro, they're getting to experience a little bit more of real life in Japan, not in that tourist bubble in a taxi. And it's had a really positive impact on the carbon footprint. So from a customer side, it's great. And from keeping the carbon queen happy, it's also great.
Oh, I love it. I think for me, this topic overall, I think it's something new for our audience too. So I hope everyone is really enjoying it. But I want to thank you all for being here. I know Hannah and James, it is late for you. You are across the pond. So thank you so much for joining us. If anyone here listening wants to hear from Explore again and wants to hear from the more technical side of their business, do come and join us at Hardwired, which is our tech week. Not next week, but the week after. We are also going to have someone from their team in the UK joining us. So you definitely want to be there. And he will be joining us, I believe, on October 16th. So please register. It's completely complimentary to everyone here to join Hardwired and learn a little bit more. Thank you so much again for all of you being here. This was wonderful. I can't even tell you, my team internally in our Slack channels are going off just about, even when you were, James, when you were talking about Japan and everything. It was just, it's beautiful to see the excitement from our audience, but also from our team. So thank you so much. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to email us directly at hello@hostagencyreviews.com. And we will make sure that we get them over to the Explore team to help support and answer. But thank you again so much for everything. And it was wonderful to have you all. And we will have you back soon because this topic is very near and dear to my heart. So thank you. And
thank you.
See everybody. We'll see everybody later. Join us on Friday for the Friday 15, our podcast with Steph Lee. And Jen Lee from Vacation Planners and TPI. And everyone have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.